the storyboard, and we are going to also use some cool components of your iPad or iPhone, like a web browser and date picker. And I'm also going to introduce a geolocation using an iPad or an iPhone. So we're going to ignore this listing that's here for now. We're going to start a new project, okay? So, oops, wrong menu. We're going to start a new project. We're going to call it Storyboard Demo. So it's going to be a single view application. That's fine. Next. Let's call it Storyboard Demo. And the company identifier, that's fine. Class prefix SB, that's fine. That's going to be for the iPad, good. I'm going to use the storyboard. This is important. And I'm going to use automatic reference counting because it makes things easier for me in terms of memory management. Now, before we could look at just gonna click create, from then on. Maybe I'll do a new folder, storyboard demo. So you can see I had a previous one there. So what's going to happen is this is going to, before using storyboards, what you had to do is basically be happy with Apple's, let me resize the screen a little bit. Is just be happy with Apple's way of handling. You would build each window of your application separately, and that was done in an XIB and a zip file with a nib, which was the NIB, which was the actual interface. So you would do this one by one, the windows, and then you trigger transitions between one another. In the code, and then you have to keep track of which window was calling what, and the whole transition you had to have it like in a piece of paper. Now Apple's providing a tool called a storyboard, which actually allows you to design those transitions graphically. Okay, and we're gonna look at that first. So the idea of the storyboard is that it's the metaphor for the storyboard is like a movie. There's a storyboard, there are scenes, and there are segs. Okay, a scene is where you compose your views, and a seg is a transition between two scenes. And basically, a scene for us is going to be a string. It's going to be what we always call a view controller. Okay, so the view controllers are actually the classes for the view controllers are actually going to manage the behavior of the scenes, which transition between one another via segs. Okay? So, what we're going to do here in our simple app that was created for us, we're going to go to the storyboard, and we're going to start fresh. We're going to start from the beginning. We're going to delete the default scene, okay? And we're going to add a navigation controller. That's what that's called. So I'm just going to click on the equals to see this. I'll select it, and I just hit delete. It's deleted. It's all comes from, starts from scratch. Now, I'm going to add what's called a navigation controller. That will allow me to link scenes to one another, and then it'll put some navigation on the top. You'll see this very quickly. So I'm looking here on this side, the navigation controller here on the right. Here it is, a navigation controller. Okay, so I will add it here, and it adds a navigation controller and a root view. This is the root view, the one that's on the right here. Okay, here's the root view. So what I will do is I'll click on the root view. I'm going to go to the properties which are there. I don't know. I could identify it with something. I could name it something. But let's continue. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two buttons in this root view. This root view is basically, a white screen. This navigation controller here is basically controlling the root view. Okay, it's something that the root view is embedded in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple buttons here that will transition to a couple of windows. Okay. So in order to do that, we go here. We look at here. This is my view controller root view. Okay, root view. You can see that here. So I'm going to select the view controller. Okay, the view controller. And then what I will do is I'm going to add two buttons to navigate to two other pages. So I will explore my buttons here, round red button. Any button will do, you know. So I'm just going to put this button here. There, that's fine. I'm going to go to the properties of this button, and I will change the title here. Default title, that's going to be, say, red. Okay, to go to a red background image or something. Or and then I'm going to create another button here. I'll align it. That's going to say green. And that's going to go to a different screen. Okay. Now these buttons don't go anywhere, but I'm going to make them go someplace. Okay. So what happens is I have my application and my two buttons, right? Now what I'm going to do is when I click red, I want to go to a different screen. So what I will do is actually create that different screen here. Okay. I'm going to add this screen. I'm going to make this really small so I can see the whole or part of the storyboard. I cannot make this bigger because I want to have some space here on my screen, and I also don't want your videos to take up all your screen. But I'm going to add what I said. You know, I'm going to add another window. Now, windows or screens are view controllers in the iOS world. So I'm going to add a view controller here. Okay, I'm going to add it over here. That's fine. Right, I'm going to move it a little bit. There you go. That's a view controller. And that view controller, it's going to be red. Okay? So because I have it here, you know, and now you see this view controller, right? I'm going to call it an identifier. So I'm going to say red view controller. This is just for title red. That's fine. Okay? So now you see that in here I have red scene. It gets me the title, the red scene, and this is the red view controller, and I have my root view controller and my red view controller now, and I have my navigation controller, which we won't deal with for now. Now what I want is when I click on the red button here, I want to transition to my red view controller. Oh, and my red view controller, of course, I probably want it to be red, so I'm going to select the view. And I'm going to go to background color, and I'll select the red. If your red is not selected among these top colors, you just go to other and select a color. Okay, so maybe I'll select another red. That red, pinkish, reddish. There you go. Okay, so I select the red. So this is a red view controller. Now I'm going to go to, as I navigate in this thing, just so you can see it. I'm going to click on this button here on the red button, and that I will link it to that. I will link it to this red view controller. So I'll click on my red button. Here I've selected it right here. And if you are, I'm going to hide the navigator just so you can see more of my screen. And if you're, come on, red button, select. Okay. If you can see the red view controller, you can control click the red button, and draw an arrow to the red view controller. Okay, you can do it this way, and then you will see a little menu that you can't really see much of there. Okay, so let me try and see if you can put that a little bit like this. There, I control clicked, and then there's a menu. How do I want this seg to happen? I'm just going to say push. Basically, one screen will move the other one to the side. Okay, and I'll say push. So then this little arrow was created, which is a seg, and you can see if I zoom out, you can see how it actually links this view with the other view. Okay, so then I'll test this. I'll test this code. You see I have written no code whatsoever so far. But what I will have is the functionality of actually clicking on a red button and going to a red screen. Okay? And that is pretty nice. So while that's brewing, you know, build succeeded. I'm going to have this in a second with the simulator, with the iOS simulator, and we'll see this in these screens. We will actually need to be able to control them, okay? And to be able to control them, we'll need a view controller, okay? And a view controller is an Objective-C class. We'll need to make that. But for now, let's just worry about the transitions. So let's see what happens here. So I have my iPad simulator here, and at any point I will have my and oops, I'm sorry about this. You can see my name. All right. Okay, there it is. So if you click on red, that actually displayed the red window, and we get a little navigation thing here. It's up to you to figure out how to change the title of that. Okay, red goes here, then we can go back. Okay, green does nothing. This is our super cool application. Now, what I'm going to do is what I said. I'm going to add a green view controller. So for that, I'm going to open up the attributes side of things, and I'm going to create a new view controller. Okay, so I'll zoom out, zoom out even more. So I'm going to add a view controller over here. This is going to be my green view controller. Identifier, green view controller. Title's going to be green. That's fine. So then the background for this is my green view controller here. I'm going to background, I select the view, and then for the background I click on this green, that's fine. And I will create the sag. Okay, so I zoom out, and then I'll create the sag from this green button here. Green button. Okay, I'll create the sag. Now, notice that I cannot see the sag. You know, I cannot see the other window. I could zoom out and do the same trick I did for the other one, or I can just control-click on green and drag it to the green view controller on this side. Okay. I don't know what was that, but if I say storyboard segs push, then that seg is created, and if I zoom out, I'll see the seg from my root view controller all the way to my green view controller from the green button, and believe me, this will actually take us to the different screens. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can have, well, let's take a quick look at the resulting app, okay? Now, the other thing that we can have is actually to put components on each of these windows, okay? On each of these screens, on each of these scenes, if you will. And we're going to see how to do that, okay? Okay, so just my red button works, and then my green button also works. That's all very good. Now, you can add more segs, and you can add segs from here to another one, and so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing. We want to add components. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little component that what it will do is actually it will show you what happened on any given date. Okay? To do that, we're going to use this. We're going to use Wikipedia's ability to tell us what happened on any given day. So, for example, I'll bring up a browser so you can see what I mean. Okay. So for example, and I can go to, if I search for example, April 15th Wikipedia, okay, if I click on that link, Wikipedia is going to tell me everything that happened on April 15th. And that is a good thing, because then I have my little, you know, I know an online website where I can actually get everything that happened on a given day. See April 15th, and then here all the events of April 15 are there. In 1071, Bari, the last Byzantine possession in southern Italy, is surrendered to Robert Guiscard. Right. So I can know what happened. Now, how do I get here? Look, notice the URL. Okay, I'm going to copy this, by the way. Notice the URL. It says nwikipedia.org wiki, and then the date, April_15. Beautiful. Now we're going to make use of that URL someplace. Okay. So back to our Xcode. So I just showed you where I'm going to get the information. So in order for you to be able to pick a date, I need to add a controller that's a date picker. Okay, so I look for it here. I'm going to add it to the, let's add it to the red view controller. So I'll click on the view, and then I'm going to, can I move this a little bit? No, I can't. So then I'm going to look for a date picker. Here's a date picker. Okay, the date picker allows you to select a lot of things, date, times, a lot of things actually. If I zoom out, I might be able to zoom out more. Okay, it's centered. Maybe I'll just move it up a little bit. And, yeah, let's select the picker. I'll just move it up a little bit. There. Okay, that's fine. Now the date picker has the date, right, and then the time, 9:53. So April 11, 9:53. I can change that here in the model that says date and time. No? I'm just going to say just date. I'm just going to pick a date. I don't need a time. All right. So this is good. That's all I need. You see how the date picker changed. The other thing that I need is a component that's going to display the Wikipedia page, and that is a web view. Okay, here, that's the web view. So I am going to put the web view on the screen. I'm going to center it with this guy. Okay, now that's a very tiny web view, so what I will do is I'm going to let's see if it can fit the whole thing. Can I make it fill the whole thing? No. It's going to fill. Let's see. All right. Well, we're just gonna do this manually. So from here, I'm going to go all the way to the border here. That's fine. And then on the other side, I'm also going to go all the way to the border. I'm just setting some margins here. And then towards the bottom, I'm also going to go a long way towards the bottom. That. So then this is what my window looks like. Okay. Now these components do nothing. These components are like, dummy components. If I run this thing, I'll be able to do something with the date picker, but I won't be able to do anything with the web view. It's just going to be a blank, square in the screen. So what I need to do is I need to create outlets for these things so I can use them. Now I can create outlets for these things in the same view controller, for example, that I already have, and then start controlling everything from that view controller. That would be okay. This is a small application. I can do that. But usually what happens if your application has more complex controls, you want to have its own view controller. So let's go to the red just to see this. Okay. We click on red, and then there's a screen. We can, flip our dates however we want. Boom, there it is. Okay, that's all it does. It does nothing but that. Okay, so like I was saying, we can actually have a view controller. Have everything controlled from the SB view controller, our main view controller, or we can have view controller that's specialized in this one window, which is the approach I'm going to take. For this small application, you might not need something like that, but for a larger application, you do want your each view be controlled by its own view controller. So let's create that. So the first thing that I want is to actually create a class. Okay. Is to actually create a class. There's something, but by the way, you can control a few more things from the seg. When you enter a seg, okay, you can still pass some information from the root view controller to the other controllers, okay? But the thing is, you can get references to the storyboard components within your own view controllers. What happens is that the UI view controller has a couple of methods that we can override to this end. So for example, let's go to our root view controller here. Okay, I'm gonna go to this is very important. So this root view controller, because we created from scratch, it doesn't know that SB view controller is actually the class that controls. It doesn't know that this class SB view controller actually controls the root view controller. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to tell it that. Okay, we go to this little identity button here, the identity inspector, and we'll tell it which class is going to control this view. So we see here is our SB view controller. Okay, so we've associated this SB view controller to that one view. Okay, to this view. So now what we can do is we can pass stuff to it. Okay, so for example, I just override one method here, or well, a couple of methods, but I'm going to override one method from the UI view controller, which is this one. Just going to put a little pragma mark, and then this is going to be seg stuff. And what I'm going to do is one of those methods is it's perform seg with or prepare for seg. Okay. So what I will do is I will change the prepare for seg with a storyboard in the sender. So then what I will do here is, for example, I will just say UI view controller, and then here view controller, it's going to be equals to, and then each seg, the seg is passed here, you know, the seg is that's that parameter. So the seg can actually tell me who's going to be the next view controller, and that's called that's the destination view controller. Okay, you can actually do I believe you can actually just do that. Seg destination view controller. Okay, that's going to be my view controller, and then I can set, for example, the title of this view controller. View controller set title, and then we're going to say, you know, I don't know, red or green, because I don't know which one's going to be my destination. We're going to see how to control that. Red or green, that's going to change the title of my view controller. So if I run this, you'll see this. But the important part here is that I am changing attributes in my view controller. Okay, my destination view controller. I'll be changing attributes, and that's important because we're going to use that concept later on when we do more stuff in this. The other thing that I think it's important to mention is that you can name your segs. That's going to be pretty useful. So, so let's see our application going. In 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we go to red, and then the title says red or green there. You see that? Okay, so we can go back. So we've actually changed something on the view controller. Now, Our view controller has more stuff in it, okay? We need to control that. But first, I'm going to show you how to discriminate whether it's the red or the green seg that we actually looked at, or the red or the green view controller. What we're going to do is we're going to name our segs. So the seg that goes to the red, I'm going to select it. I'll go to the Attributes Inspector. And the identifier, I'm going to call it red seg. That is just a string. Then I'm going to go to my other seg, okay, the green seg, and I'm going to call it green seg. Okay, so now there's the red seg and the green seg, depending on what I choose. So if I go to my view controller, to the method that I'm working on, what I can say is, hey, if the seg and then the name, right, I want the name of this seg, okay, so identifier, that's the name of the seg. So if the seg dot identifier is and then is we have to compare it whether it's equals to red, and I just blanked out on the equals method. Oh, sorry, it's not dot. Is equal to string red seg. So if my seg is equal to string red seg, then VC set title red, right? Else, oops, VC set title green. And this is a way in which we've actually discriminated. We're going to see this working later because I want to cover a little bit more and I don't have a lot of time right now. But we've discriminated. Now we have another property of the segs, and we can check the name that we actually named them and discriminate on what we do. All right. The next thing that we need is that we need to add outlets for the components that we had on that seg. Now, to create outlets there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to associate another class, another view controller to them. So what I will do is I'm going to go to the storyboard demo, and I'm going to right-click and then create a new file. I'm going to create an Objective-C class, plain class, okay? And I'm going to call it red view controller, okay? Next. Subclass of a UI view, no, cancel. Subclass of Anise object. Very simple. Next. And then I'll just create it. Any other class is going to create some overhead stuff there for you. Don't go there, okay? So red view controller. What I'm going to do in the red view controller, though, is I'm going to not import the foundations, but import the UI kit. So what I want to make it is the view controller, just like the SB view controller. Look at the heading. The SB view controller imports the UI kit, and it also extends UI view controller. So I need that in my .h, right? So imports the UI kit. Let's see if there's any completions. No completions yet. Imports the UI kit. UI kit.h, I believe that's the header. I'm just going to check with this one. UI kit header. Yes. And then, oops, .h. No, I won't extend an object. I'll extend UI view controller. Okay. So now I've created a view controller. Now this view, the screen itself doesn't know that this is going to be its view controller. So I'm going to make it. I'm going to go to my storyboard, click on my red view controller. You can click from here as well, and then go to the identity inspector here, and then tell it that the class is going to be the red view controller. So this thing keeps track of all my classes that extend view controller. Okay. So the red view controller now is going to control this. So what I have to do now is actually go to my my assistant editor. And you see that I have selected, I'm sorry you cannot see this very well, but I have selected my red view controller, and immediately the .h part of it opens up, right? The .h part of the controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create outlets for the date picker. So I'll just select it here, picker, because I don't have enough screen real estate. So Control, drag. It's going to be an outlet, and it's going to be called date P, or date. It's just going to be called date. I'll connect this as an outlet, and then I'll connect the web browser as an outlet as well. So the web browser is going to go here, and it's going to be called browser connect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is what I want to do is that when the date picker, when the date changes in the date picker, I'm going to update the browser. Okay? So what I will do is I'm going to create an action on the date picker. So control click here. I'm not going to create an outlet, but an action. And the action is going to be browse to date. Okay? And it's gonna and the event that's gonna trigger that action is the value change, when the value of this changes. Connect. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my redviewcontroller.m at this point. You see that it has created the properties for me. I'm just going to synthesize them better. Date browser. Browser. And then here what I'm going to do is, okay, so the date change, we know the date change. So I'm going to get that date, somehow, right? So I'm going to get that date. So the first thing that I'll say is I'll save the date in a temporary date, Anise date. The date is going to be self dot date, right? So whatever, date, that's the date picker. That from that picker I'm going to get the date, which is the date attribute actually. Okay. Probably date was not the best name for the date picker, but it's in a different color, so you can see this is the date picker, the object, and this is the date attribute of that object. Okay, so then you see the then to be able to extract the month and the year and all that, I need a what's called an Anise date formatter. Okay, formatter, and that's going to be an Anise date formatter lock in it. So basically we create a new one. Then we're going to get the month. Okay, so let's put a format here. Formatter set date format, and the big M is going to give me a number for the month. Okay, a number from 0 to 12, from 1 to 12, right? So January is 1, December is 12. It's going to give me actually a number for a month in a calendar. So if it's the Chinese calendar, it might give me a different number, but we're gonna take care of that. So let's say that's the month. Okay. So oh no, I'm sorry. So the default calendar for this thing, I could set the calendar, but the default calendar here is the Gregorian, which so months go from 1 to 12. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a number, Anise integer month number. It's going to be equal to I'm going to create a formatter. The formatter, I'm going to pass the date as a string, right? So the date, and that's going to give me a string with the number of the month. That's going to give me like a at quote quote 1. Okay. What I need here is from that string I want the int value of that string. Okay, and that's what's going to do it. So I'm going to get the int value of the month number, capitals, int value of that month number. Now I want to get the date, so formatter set date format, and the next format is going to be a day, okay? And I'll do the same thing, Anise integer day. The day I don't need the, so formatter string from date, the date, and then int value. So now I have the month and the date, but the month is a number. So what I need to do with that is actually get an Anise string. I actually need to get the month, the word for the month. So I can create an array of 12 months and then, you know, get the corresponding number for the month number, but the formatter already has this. So what I can do is formatter and then month symbols. That's an array that contains the months, and then object at index, and then what index. So for example, January is the first month. January is 1, but in the array that's the element 0. So I need to get the month number minus 1, okay? Because again, I'm accessing an array, minus 1. Okay, so I believe that goes here. No, come on, not month num minus 1. Let's do parentheses here so the editor knows what I'm talking about. So then that's this, and then is that a no here? Okay. All right. So now I have the month number. That little semicolon. I did not press enter. It just moved it here because the line was too short. Okay. Maybe I can hide this. There you go. Then the next thing is I'm going to create this URL. Okay. The URL for the Wikipedia thing. So in a string, my little URL is going to be and a string, and the format that's gonna have this URL, it's going to be the URL for the Wikipedia, which I had copied, and there it is. But instead of April 15, I'm going to say this is going to be the month underscore the day, which is a decimal, and that's going to be month, comma, day. That is my string. A few other things. Formatter day formatter needs a semicolon. Formatter month symbols. Object at index of num minus 1. What's wrong with this? This is wrong with this. Okay. So now I have my URL. Now what I need to do is actually to start the browser with that URL. So what I'll say is self.browser. That's my browser, right? Load request. And then I need a, are there any methods that are simpler than this? Load, no, they all request a URL. So, okay. Load request, and then here I will create a new Anise URL request. Okay. Request with URL. Okay. And I need for this request URL, I need an object of type Anise URL. So Anise URL, URL, an Anise URL, and then I will create a URL, an Anise URL from string. So URL with string, and then what's the string? Well, it's my little URL here. It's the Wikipedia address. So URL. So that creates the Anise URL, which in turn create the request, which then can be loaded by the browser. Okay, and that's our method. And what we can see now is, well, check if this works. So we'll just run this and see if it works. Check to see. And hopefully I'll have my iPad simulator. So the other thing that I wanted to do today was to actually, so let's go to the red screen. Let's see what happens. That's the date picker, so let's pick a date. So November 10th. What happened in November 10th? So this is actually loading, and it loaded November 10 over here, the web page. And this is a browser page, so you can swipe your finger, you can move it, This is the web page, okay? And if you change it to November 11th, then November 11th comes up, the URL loads. For the green button, what I want is to display the position of the app. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to create another class. I'm just going to control this from the SBView controller, perhaps. Okay. I'm going to try to do no. It's better if I control it from its own controller. So I'll do that. I'm just going to go a little faster. We're going to open a new Objective-C file, Objective-C class. That's going to be green view controller, little o, green view controller, enhance from this object, create it, just create it, and it's been created there. I'm going to update the headers to actually say that I want a view controller here, UI kit, UI kit.h. It will inherit from UI view controller. And then in the storyboard, I'm going to tell the green view controller that it will inherit from, that the class for it will actually be that one. So I'll open my utilities inspector here, and I'll say that the class for this view controller that I just selected, I clicked here, the class for this is going to be my green view controller, which now shows up there. And now I'm going to add a place to put the latitude and the longitude. And for that, I'm going to just use labels, plain labels. So this one's going to have the, whoops, I need to select the view. This one's going to have the latitude right there. Where is it? That one's going to have the latitude, okay? And this one's going to have, the other one's going to have the longitude. Okay, I'm not going to care too much about, alignment or anything. They're just going to have latitude and longitude, okay? So I need to create the outlets for these things. I'll remove that. Okay, there you go. So from here, I'll just control click. Create an outlet, and it's going to be lat label. And then here I'm going to create the longitude. The important thing here to know is that I'm going to access something from your phone. So you know how to transition between windows, how to do stuff with Google Components. Now, how do we extract something that it's a component of the phone, the GPS or the location? Okay, so the other thing that I need now is also to import not only the UI kit but also import the location files, and that is the framework for this is the CL, the core location, okay, core location. That will give me a lot of libraries about core location. And because the GPS triggers events, it needs a delegate. So I'm going to make this view controller be a delegate for that. So we do that by angle braces, and we'll say CL location manager delegate. I'm going to make this a delegate. Okay. Sorry that I'm going so fast on this one, but I'm running out of time, and I want to show you how to access this. So the CL location manager delegate. Now we have methods. Okay. So we're going to implement some of the delegate methods here in this class. So let's go to the class, the greenviewcontroller.m. Okay, and we're going to implement some of the delegate methods of the core location. So void. By the way, I'm going to create a location manager in my .h file. I need that, so property strong non-atomic core location manager. Location manager. It's basically a GPS manager. It's going to be called location manager. I need my pointers, right? So star, there you go. Location manager. And I'm going to create a property called location. Property strong atomic CL location. Why a CL location? Because if we ever lose satellite reception, we still want to know what was the last location that we actually got. If there's any difficulties, we want to store the last location that we had. So I've created these properties. I will synthesize them. Synthesize location, and then synthesize location manager. Okay, and then I'll just that label, and the long label. No, oops. Long label. Okay, so I've synthesized the properties properly. Now, what I want is also in my viewDidLoad, which is the main method that opens up when a window opens up. I want to start finding my location. So location, location manager, start updating location. That's the method that I want to call. When I unload my view, I want GPS to stop. So self location manager, stop updating location. So I'll turn on the GPS when the view appears, and I'll turn it off when the view leaves. Now, I need some delegate methods here. So so one of the methods for the location is did update location, but this is void location. Was it exactly the signature? I will find it in a. All right. For this, actually, the method is essentially a location manager. Location manager. This is one of the delegate methods. So, oh, that's why I wasn't doing anything. Okay, location manager. Now it'll tell me. So any of these manager, there you go. Location manager, and then what I want is did update location. Did update location. So whenever the location is updated, this method's gonna come up. And all you need to know is, well, when this gives me, GPS gives me a new location and an old location. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store the new location. So set location, and it's going to be my new location. Okay, so I'll set location. Oops. Set location is going to be my new location. Beautiful. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say, tell the GPS to stop if I have a desired accuracy in my location. So I'll say if new location dot horizontal accuracy is less than 100 float. 100, this is 100 meters, okay? So if new locations is less than 100, okay, then I'm going to stop the GPS, and we just did this. So self location manager stop updating location. So if it's less than 100, okay? Now, once the GPS does this, what I want is to update the labels. So I'm going to create a CL location degrees. That's a number, okay, for latitude. And it's going to be self the current location, okay, which we call location. We can call it also the new location. That's fine, okay. New, sorry, it's going to be the new location dot current location current location sorry, new location dot coordinate, okay, and then latitude. That's going to be the number that I want, and then another location degrees for the longitude. It's going to be new location dot coordinate dot longitude. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print this in the labels. So I'm going to say self dot latitude label, okay, set text, and then NS string with format, okay, and then I'm going to say this is going to be a number, so decimal, and it's going to be the latitude. And then here I need that. Okay, so I'm going to set the label's text to a string. Which string? Well, a string with a format decimal that I'm going to put the latitude in. You could do this in separate lines, one to set the string, one to put it on the label. And then the longitude label, it's the exact same thing. Long label, set text, and a string with format, it's another number, and this time is the longitude, and that's it. So we've set it. Okay, this is the main method you need to know how to deal with. There's another method to deal with errors if you want to deal with them gracefully, but we're not going to implement it here. We're just going to end here. We're just going to show you this application working. It might be the case that you have to do something with the degrees, convert them to something else. You can do that. There's all sorts of things, but I just want to show you how to extract stuff from the GPS. Sometimes this might still throw an error, and it might be the case here because I forgot one step. I'm not sure that the default will support what I want to do. So my red goes to my web page, there, August 12th, that's nice. And then my green goes here, nothing has happened. Okay, so one of the things that I want to make sure I do is actually to link the core location libraries to this project. So it's not enough to put them here, but if you go to my storyboard demo, the main thing there, in this summary that you see here, I just scroll down and scroll down, and here's the UI Kit Foundations and Core Graphics. I need Core Location Framework as well to be linked here. So I just type here, Core Location Framework. There it is. Add. Okay. Now I can run my application. That's the last step, and it's an important one because you're using a framework that wasn't important before. Okay. And that is important. So we'll now see the app, and that will conclude our video. So let's see. Red, we've seen this ad nauseum, so it'll bring up the date. And then if we go green, for some reason this is not updating. Well, I'll leave it up to you to debug this. I'm not quite sure why it is not updating the locations. It might be so in the view did load, I start updating location. Oh, I haven't set the self location manager set delegate to this one, to myself. There you go. I need to set the delegate of the location manager to self. That's probably the problem. Okay, because I didn't tell it that this same class is also going to be a delegate for the location manager, which I did at the beginning. So now I go to the green, and nothing's happening. Well, I'll leave it to. Oh, and one more thing. I'm sorry about this, but so first, the location manager is null. So I need to actually say that self set location manager. It's going to be CL location manager alloc init. All right, now we have a location manager. Now we have a location manager, and CL location manager alloc init. There, this braces to kill me. I think that's it. That closes that one. This closes that one. Okay, good. Now I'm going to run this. So I've initialized the object. Then I set a start updating location, and I set the delegate to something else. So probably I should have done it the wrong order. Yes. Well, here's telling me, would you like to use your current location? Okay. And then it updated latitude and longitude. That concludes our demo. Happy coding.